Okay, well, welcome everyone to today's CRM Blueprint Series webinar. This one's entitled Transforming Customer Relationships. We've got a great customer with us. This is all about Tetley Harris's journey from spreadsheets to CRM. So let's jump into it, shall we? Okay, who's going to be speaking with you today? Okay, well, I'm here. I'm Martin Schneider. I'm the resident product expert on CRM here at Sugar. Trevor McSwain is going to be telling his story. He's the regional sales manager at Tetley Harris. Trevor, great to have you with us. Also, we have Garrett Hogan, who's the vice president of customer experience at Braincell. Braincell was the Sugar CRM partner that helped Tetley Harris in their CRM journey. Welcome, everyone. Thanks for joining us.
Great to be on the call, Martin.
Great. Now, quick agenda, quick level set here. First, we're going to talk about who is Braincell, our awesome partner in North America. We're going to talk about transforming customer relationships with CRM. Give you a quick overview for those of you who aren't fully versed in the power and the benefits that CRM brings. Then we're going to focus right in on Trevor's story. What's Tetley Harris's journey? Where were they? Where are they going? What are the success that they had? And then we'll answer your questions. So you've got the Q&A box over there. If you have questions at any time, log them in. Now remember, you're all on listen only, so we can't hear you. So if you have a question, put it in, and we will get to it at the Q&A section at the end. So make sure to type it in when inspiration strikes, so you don't forget later. So put it in at any time. Now, I want to introduce Braincell. Braincell is one of our elite and most awesome partners in North America, doing great things with awesome companies of all shapes and sizes. So, Garrett, why don't you tell us a little bit more about Braincell?
Absolutely, Martin. Great to be on the call again. My name is Garrett Hogan, Vice President of Customer Experience here at Braincell. We're an unbiased partner of Sugar CRM, ERP solutions, business intelligence tools, marketing automation software, and also support software. And so most of our day over here is listening to your needs with technology, understanding your business processes, and finding the right fit so you can grow with technology. And so that's basically what we're here to do. Started with Sugar CRM as a partner back, I believe, in 2005, 2006. Love to talk about Sugar, love to talk about its capabilities. I find it has the highest user adoption in the marketplace, and I think we'll go back to that a little bit more in the call.
Awesome. Well, thanks for that intro. I think that's great context to understand where we're both kind of coming from the kind of manufacturer and the delivery mechanism to ensure success. So great stuff there. Before we go any further, I do want to go through a quick audience poll. It's important for us to kind of gauge what kind of expertise, what kind of experience we have with CRM with the audience. So our first poll, let's kick this off right now, asking, do you currently use CRM software in your organization? Now, for those of you on the audience side, please answer the poll, because if you don't, it doesn't allow you to, it kind of blocks your screen for a while. So it's really important for you to give us an idea of what you're using, whether you're using Sugar, one of our competitors, or nothing right now. Just really trying to gauge the experience level, the comfort level, and the knowledge level that you guys have, and we'll shape our conversation based on what we learned from the poll. So we'll take about 30 more seconds. Should be pretty simple. Hopefully you guys know if you're using software, CRM or not. All right, now let's close that poll. Looks like we've got a good amount of things there. Now, I'll quickly share the results here, because I think, like I said, we want to get forward going. Then, looks like a lot of you, almost half, about 40% are using Sugar, which is awesome. So you can learn from one of our other customers some of their success paths and things they're doing. Looks like some of you guys are using some about 40, almost half are using something else. which is great. Hopefully you're interested in migration or learning how Sugar can bring some unique benefits you might not be getting. And then the rest aren't using, about 20% aren't using, so 1 in 5 of you guys. I hope this is really educational for you. We'll try to keep it fairly simple for you guys and keep the terminology really self-evident in terms of what we're doing. All right, great. Now moving on, I want to ask another quick question, because if you are using something else or using nothing, which is more than half of you, are you planning to implement a new CRM platform? But think about it this way: are you planning on implementing or expanding CRM? Think of it that way as you go. So let's kick off the second question real quick. I would assume there's some of you on here that are thinking about your options, or maybe you're happy with what you're having. You're just trying to learn some new tips and tricks to make your existing deployment, especially with Sugar, even more effective and to drive more adoption. Like I said, we're going to talk about all that, and that's great stuff. See how the progress is going here. All right, it looks like we have a quorum here. So why don't we go ahead and close that? That's great. Now, looks like about half of you, based on my responses here, are happy with what you have. That's great. Like I said, you're going to learn a lot from the discussion with Trevor, and hopefully make what you have even better. But now the other half of you guys, looks like you're either on the fence or definitely exploring options. Now, the great thing is again, you're going to learn hopefully how Sugar and our partner Braincell can make any deployment successful, because of the way, just like Garrett said, the way they listen, the way they think about solving business problems. It's not about pushing technology on you. So really interesting stuff. Thank you guys for all that. This has been really great insight on how we can shape this conversation to really give you guys exactly what you need. All right, so let's talk about transforming customer relationships with CRM and why CRM is important, okay? CRM, customer relationship management, customer experience management, you're starting to hear kind of different terminology getting used in the right around now, and kind of new trends, new buzzwords, whatever you want to call it. But it is the largest and fastest growing software market worldwide. By 2025, so in about 5-6 years, it's about a $82 billion market. 91% of companies with more than 10 employees use some form of CRM, whether they built it themselves, whether they're using package or what you call off-the-shelf software or something, right? It might even be a spreadsheets and email approach, but they have what they would call a customer relationship management initiative in place. And why is that, right? It's because as a lot of mega trends are happening right now, the shift to the subscription economy, or what we call the recurring customer economy, the reliance on retention of your customers, on upsell and cross-sell, of the idea of shifting from transactional models to subscription or renewal models, that type of idea, that changes the game. I mean, you can't just go out there, find new customers, sell to them, and that's kind of it. It really is about relationships. The R in CRM is more important than ever, right? And why are people investing in this? Because of the benefits that they can get from a centralized system like a CRM. You get huge return on investment. Nucleus Research said that for every dollar on average spent on CRM technology, you get between $2 and $3 back in benefits. That's a huge return when you think of other technology pieces that kind of do a lot of important things transactionally, but they don't necessarily give money back to you. So how do they do that, right? It's higher customer retention. The more you know your customer, the more you understand customer histories, the customer journey, the easier it is to give them what they need when they need it, or sometimes before they need it, right? Another great way to measure ROI is an improved productivity. We see customers who get 2 to 3 hours, sometimes a whole day back for their salespeople, for example, where instead of doing administrative work, instead of doing data entry, instead of pointing out the work they've done, they're spending more time with customers. They're spending more time with prospects. They're spending more time doing what they do best, which is selling. Salespeople should be out there selling or on the phone selling, not typing into a old legacy application. Because that's the idea, right? You want them working smarter, not harder. And that obviously enables smarter selling. But the great thing is that when you know your customer more, when you have that data in a centralized place, when you're giving them a sales or a support or even a marketing flow experience that's consistent and that's knowledgeable on your part, where we show that you know where they've been, you know what they need, and you're being more of a consultative sale process rather than a, hey, what do you want or what do you need, that kind of thing, and being more reactive and being more proactive. You enhance the customer experience, which again leads to more dollars spent per interaction, more retention, more upsell and cross-sell, which is, again, higher profits, not just higher top line. So great stuff. And then the great thing is greater accessibility to data, which improves all those things above it, right? The idea is centralizing data, making it simple, and pushing what's insightful and important, not just a huge database of fields and data. It's information, it's insights. That's what modern CRM can do for your company, whether you're 10 people, as it said earlier, or 10,000 people. Because 73% of customers say they spent more with the company because of a positive experience. It's PricewaterhouseCoopers survey that they recently did. So again, 3 out of 4 customers out there, prospects, whether it's B2B or B2C, that's the same. Is regardless of what kind of business model you have, if they like you, if they like doing business with you, they're going to come back. Sugar is in the business of building customer relationships that last a lifetime, customers for life. So let's bring this down to an individual level for Tetley Harris's journey from spreadsheets to CRM. Let's talk about where they came from. But first, Trevor, why don't you tell us a bit more about Tetley Harris? I mean, I think a lot of people have probably seen your brands, but maybe it's good to talk a bit more about kind of where you come from a corporate perspective and what you guys are all about.
Sure. Well, thanks for having me on, guys. I appreciate everybody taking part. Tetley Harris is essentially, we're part of the Tata Group, which is a huge international corporation, employs more than 3,000 folks. But Tetley Harris is the food service arm of Tata in North America. So what we do is we specialized in brewed coffee, brewed tea. It's kind of our wheelhouse, and we also manufacture ready to drink items, cans and bottles, things like that. We're the largest private label tea packing company in North America, and we operate out of 3 facilities, California, Georgia, and New Jersey.
Awesome.
So essentially, if you're going to go get a beverage at your favorite diner down the street, or maybe even a national branded restaurant, there's a pretty good chance that you're drinking a tea that's manufactured by us, even if it doesn't have our name on it.
Awesome. That's really cool. I always remember the tiny little tea leaves that was the ad I had growing up. Now, so tell us a bit. This is a big company. How long have you been with Tetley, and what was your familiarity with CRM before you came to Tetley?
So I've been with Tetley for coming up on 3 years now. Before I was with Tetley, I was with Starbucks, and then after that with Kraft Foods. And my experience with CRM, primarily with Kraft, was we had a custom in-house system at first, which was a little clunky, to say the least, and a bit outdated. And then during one of the variations of, I don't remember which merger it was, to be honest with you, we switched over to Salesforce. And I experienced the launch in that, and was one of I was the region coach, I guess you would say, for our region. So if when we were training folks on the platform, I would kind of take the lead on that. And then if anybody had questions during the work week about how do I do this, or where do I go to find this report, I was the guy who knew how to tell them to do that.
Gotcha. So when you came to Tetley, what were they using? I mean, you kind of come in, new company. What's the situation? It looks like you had some, a fair familiarity with CRM and what the what the benefits are. So what happens when you come over to Tetley?
Yeah, I was a little bit shocked. My first week, they said, look, you know, we're really good at a lot of things, but we're horrible at organizing our customer information for the sales force. And so I said, okay, well, let's look at what you got. And I got a Excel file that had 10 tabs on the bottom with everybody's last name was on each tab, and each spreadsheet was sorted differently, and it was a list of about, across all the tabs, about 100 customers. And some of them were current customers, most of them were targets that they were going after, and just random notes that were often, you could tell that some of the folks didn't know how to use the filters correctly on Excel. So it was kind of a mess. and so they asked me to start looking into CRM systems,
Gotcha.
and kind of went from there.
So I mean, was this even in a cloud basis on a Google Drive? Is this something they're handing around through email? I mean, how is this centralized or even understood of time? I mean, who's changing what? I mean, how did that get managed?
Just imagine the worst possible scenarios with misusing save and save as that you can possibly imagine. Yeah.
You got proliferation of ones. You don't know which one's the version of truth. All those problems you can imagine, right?
Correct.
Oh my gosh. So okay, it becomes pretty evident pretty early, and it sounds like they kind of recognized they needed something. They knew they weren't good at that. So what are the kind of main drivers? I mean, what were the kind of feature capabilities? I mean, what was going on in your head when you're thinking of, all right, what do you got to do? What's your early quick wins that you can do here?
So we needed something that was, the admin side of it was something that someone like me could do. I'm a computer novice, right? So I knew what I needed the CRM system to do, but if I was going to have to manage the back end on a daily basis, then I needed to be able to do that without someone with an IT degree, calling them every day and bugging them. So that was number one. It really needed to be something that could be as simple or as complex as we needed it to be. It was very obvious based on the teams. No one had experience with CRM. There was one guy on the team that had used it with a previous company, but most of the team had been here for 10 years plus.
Gotcha.
So it needed to be something that we could start out really simple, get them into it, convince them that this will work. This will help us retain and gain new customers. And then as we moved along, we could grow into it.
Of course. I mean, yeah, it's we always say try to find that person who's been there the longest and hates change, and if you get them first. But we'll talk about adoption in a bit. So okay, so you've got a kind of loosely kind of coupled idea of your drivers, your capabilities, what you want to do in a project. So what's the vetting process and how you found Garrett and Braincell? I mean, how did that come about?
So the next step was I sat down with our president of our division, and then the VP of sales, and just asked them what they wanted the system to be able to do, how they wanted to use the system from the management perspective, and covered off what I thought salespeople should be doing on a daily basis, as far as what data was pertinent that they enter and what was just busy work, because I had experienced systems where it was garbage in, more than anything. And so we set goals of what, we really want to use it to increase the number of opportunities that we're pursuing, to be able to better track those opportunities, and to have a better customer database that's much more accurate than what we had. And we also wanted to expand that customer database, to have a place to house all those target customers that we haven't touched on yet, but we want to. And so after we did that, I basically made a checklist of, here's all the things this CRM system has to be able to do. And some of the items on the list were extremely broad, very top line, and some of them were very detailed. Like, I need something that on this particular entry, I have the option to have a customized drop down, because I knew that if I didn't, the salespeople would type in whatever and it would make things impossible to search, right?
Yep.
So we essentially created this list and we started researching just on the internet, talking to other companies that we do business with, what they use. And of course, most of the standard folks came up. Some of them we eliminated right away. Some of them we pursued. But in a conversation with a company that we're friendly with, somebody recommended Sugar. And so we added Sugar to the list. And we ended up vetting 8 CRM companies based on the criteria we set forth. So the first step every time was a phone call or an email. And then we took it from there, and we kind of went down our criteria list with each company. And if they passed the first step, then we would get to a demo. And they passed that step, we kept going. Sometimes we would actually speak to folks like Garrett, IT folks that could answer more technical questions. And some companies, believe it or not, wouldn't let you get that far until you ponied up some money. So that's essentially how we got to Sugar. And out of the 8 that we evaluated, Sugar was the pretty clear-cut winner that met all of our needs.
Great. So Garrett, they get in touch with you. You're talking with them. I mean, how did you, first off, how did that, when you look at their project, was this something you were completely comfortable with? And how do you guys consult with a company that's, maybe already using a CRM and maybe looking to make a migration versus someone like Tetley that is kind of new to it, both from let's call it technical chops as well as cultural kind of embracing at this point, so give me a little bit of color on that.
Right. So, I mean, and I think the foundation to that is the fact that Sugar CRM in the industry is classified as an enterprise class CRM. And so I talk about this quite often. There are a lot of CRMs in the marketplace, but their positionings could be different. They could be considered a light CRM, in which case there's not full-blown configuration capabilities in the back end of the system. And that's okay, right? They still serve their purpose in the world. But if you're looking for flexibility, if you're looking for a CRM that is going to fit your business processes, that you're going to be able to grow with, then you have to look truly to an enterprise class CRM. And then you have to think to yourself, okay, think about some of the key components that Trevor talked about. He's talking about his business processes, right? He's talking about a robust pipeline. He's talking about lead management. I think that when you look at a robust pipeline and you look at lead management capabilities, you also have to look at the fact that what kind of reporting are they looking for? What kind of data analytics? What kind of predictable revenue? Because to Trevor's point, it was, yes, let's manage our current accounts. Let's get an idea of our pipeline, but how are we growing this business, right? So we've got to include reporting and analytics, and I think Sugar handles that really well. So now that we have a better idea of the business processes within the company, now that we have a better idea of what they're looking for in a CRM, then we can go to storyboarding it. And that's really where Braincell will take the additional step, right? Trevor talks about admin simplicity. He needs to be able to feel like he owns the tool. And of course, the Sugar admin portal gives him full capabilities to continue to make customizations and changes, add fields, drop downs, set up security restrictions. And he can do that without these unexpected costs that nobody was predicting year 2, year 3, year 4, because he doesn't have to call us about it. He can do it himself. And then you've got this final component that you have to take very seriously. And there's probably 150 different white papers out there about this, and it's about your CRM project failing. What is a key component to a CRM project failing? User adoption.
Yep.
I mean, in my opinion, Sugar CRM has the highest user adoption in the marketplace because it keeps it very simple for the end users. And in this case, that had to be a major focal point of our conversations because they're not coming from another CRM. If they were, okay, maybe you grade it down a little bit. But in this case, what's going to be the big win for Trevor is getting these users to use it. So we talked about user simplicity and how to start with something and then grow with it. And that simplicity could be right out of the box, just the little plus buttons in Sugar CRM. It was also, I think, things like the, out of the box Outlook plugin, right? A nice little crutch to get their users using it if they're constantly in Outlook. Users get on the road, mobility, access through tablets. You take all that into consideration as you storyboard the solution, and that's basically the journey we went through.
Great. So let's talk about this process, Trevor. I mean, you're vetting. You found Braincell. You kind of discovered sugar. So let's talk this. I know you provided us this really nice kind of chart here of almost like a scorecard. Can you kind of walk us through what's on the screen here and kind of talk about this process and your vetting through to implementation and what was kind of going through your mindset here and how your comfort, if not your enthusiasm for sugar kind of built through this.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you you see my kind of really, my wife calls it my OCD coming out at work here, but if you look at this list, you'll see on the far right column over there, it's all green, right? So we basically we had red, yellow, and green, right? Red meant that the system could not do what we needed it to do on one of these questions. Now that didn't automatically disqualify anybody. Some of these things were nice to haves, some of them were must haves, right? Yellow meant the system could do it, but on the admin side, I was going to have somebody help me implement that. So green meant the system out of the box, even though it may take some customization through admin, can do what we're asking here. And out of the 8, sugar was the only one that answered every question with a yes, we can do that. And to be honest with you, even though Allie and Garrett were super nice folks and really helped me out when we were having our initial discussions, as a salesperson, I know I tell people all the time, yeah, we can do that, right? So, and then I'm figuring out how to scrambling in the background. So I was still pretty apprehensive about, well, when I get into this, what's it really going to be like? But what I can tell you is with Braincell's help that everything you see on the checklist here, I really was able, and I still am able to do all on my own as far as the functionality, the setup, and all that.
That's great.
So worked out fantastic.
That's great. And you don't mind any of our audience here taking a screenshot of that and
no,
use that as a guide for requirements for either initial phase or maybe a phase 2 or a migration, because I think you cover a lot of boxes here that a lot of people don't think about, but it's it seems pretty basic, some of this stuff, but it's all really important, and not everybody does this well, right? So it's great to see that you guys were thinking about this coming from nothing and building this out as a kind of a phase 1 of what's important to you in terms of your basics. There's a lot of stuff here, and we're happy that we ticked all the boxes, but some of this might differ for everybody else. But taking the priorities and weighting this is really cool. I mean, it looks like we did pretty well with about a 92%, which is pretty awesome. So that's really cool. So now, had you done this before? Was this something, maybe a craft that you had done? I mean, how are you able to put this together? Was this just thinking about the business at Tetley, or did you kind of take this as almost a template from craft?
No, this is 100% original. It's copyrighted too. But so this is based off of our internal conversations at Tetley, what we wanted the system to do, and then what I actually did was on a piece of paper, I drew out the system. After seeing the demo and everything, I said, here's the modules I want. Here's how I want them to interface. Here's how I'm going to train people to go in and enter information. And then we built this list. I said, okay, well, can it do all of these things? And some of these things came from that initial, here's how we want the system set up, via the internal conversations at Tetley. Some of these things were the kind of, my boss and the president of our company, they were like, I don't understand what this one means. And I said, trust me, we needed to do this because it was from previous experience with systems.
Okay.
Yeah, but the one thing I would point out is the evaluation selection process. My number one job in our company is sales. This was like a ridiculously huge side project for me. So if I was full-time doing this, or even could devote half my time, it probably would have been about a month, maybe 6 weeks. But it took me 4 months just because it was being done in airports and in Ubers and things like that.
Gotcha. So that leads me to a question for Garrett. I mean, what are some of the considerations companies should keep in mind when they're implementing new software, especially around kind of time and scoping and things? What are some kind of tips and tricks to make sure that they stay on track and are successful when they're doing this?
More the front end loading, if you will, out of the gate. I think Trevor and we went through a process to say, listen, we're about to go on this road. We're about to walk down the street. But if we do all this work now, when we get to the end of the street, we're going to know exactly what we expected when we started. So the more work you do, Trevor, as you can see, was great with documentation. I love to use, and they can be very simple depending on your use case. But I love to use project planning guides just to document and put all that detail and make that effort in the beginning to lower the risk of the project, to have a very satisfied customer, and also to identify what your milestones are going to be and your timeframes are going to be, right? So it's just front loading. It's just doing the work now before the commitment is made.
That's great. Another thing I add is, usually scope creep. You go further down the line and people say, oh, well, why can't it do this? Or we want to do this and that. Say, maybe into phase 2 or maybe phase 3, but let's stay on point, get the benefits out of that, and stay the course for our initial deployment, because we don't want to push this further. We don't want to overload people. We'll be successful, which brings me to the kind of other point around adoption. I mean, what did you guys do specifically, Trevor, around user adoption? What was your approach? Because, you got a spreadsheet team. You got people that have been there 10 years and they say, this is how it's been done every day I've been here. Why should I change? So what was your approach here? What worked, what didn't, that kind of stuff?
Yeah, so we kept it simple. We did obviously initial training with the team. We had an extremely simplified version of what we currently use now as far as the setup. I had to take folks through. Here's how you get to it. Here's how you load information in. One of the key features that we had with Sugar was making fields mandatory, right? So that took care of some of the process. But one of the mistakes that we made right from the get-go was that we didn't immediately integrate with Outlook. As soon as we did, I can tell you that the user adoption kind of went through the roof. So before that, it was awesome for a month or two. There's this new toy, then it kind of faded. And then we integrated with Outlook. It got better. We've continued to add to the system. We added all the automation features now. When somebody enters an opportunity, their manager gets an email with a link to the opportunity. They get an email with a link to the opportunity. We've actually added a section in there where our support staff who work on projects like pricing and developing P&Ls for opportunities, we can go in and enter a project that says, I need a P&L for this SKU. Here's a link to the opportunity, and they get an email immediately. So it's improved our process. At the same time, when that happened, our activity in Sugar went up tremendously, and we've seen good results from it.
Great. So Garrett, I mean, we're a manufacturer of software. You can do anything with Sugar, right? So how do you, as the partner, help them drive adoption on the things that aren't quite 100% technology? I mean, you can train people on how the thing works, but in process and other things, where does Braincell come in with that? I mean, how do you guys have that consultative approach?
Well, I mean, really, it comes out organically through these discussions. Some of the things that I'm looking for when it comes to, again, and because you're talking about risk in a project and an adoption. So think about how Trevor approached the project from his end. That's management saying, we're going to position this system in such a way that we're going to enforce and we're going to stand behind usage of the system, right? So it comes down from the top. And so you could take that off your list and say, okay, we've got management enforcement of this new tool. And then, of course, think about the advanced automation that Trevor implemented, right? That little additional ease that is going to help the user, and it's going to make the user want to use the system, right? If I can automate the redundancy in the product and save that user time, then they're going to want to use that product. So use advanced automation, Sugar BPM, whatever you call it, to make your users' life easier, and you'll see that adoption come along. And again, not having a CRM, just knowing from past experience, that Outlook plugin that Sugar CRM has, well, it's fantastic, and it's a really nice crutch. It displays the contact and company and opportunity data right there in the Outlook window. So for somebody who's just living in their Outlook and not used to using a CRM, or even has never been introduced to the concepts of what CRM is there to do, that Outlook plugin is a great crutch to get them started. So there's lots of other things I'm sure I'm missing on the call today, but those are some of the things that come straight to mind.
That's awesome. That's great stuff. Okay, so just to go through some things, you talked about, it's new toy, start simple, you integrate with Outlook. That was a big thing. But you talk about a continuing, ongoing effort. Do you do spot training? How often, Trevor, do you guys do training? I mean, how was training approached?
So as a team, as an entire Salesforce team, we get together twice a year. When we first implemented it, we would take like half a day and make sure that everybody was up to speed on the system. We also, one thing we started doing at our company meetings is when we were updating upper management about opportunities and forecasts and trying to help them build their fiscal year budgets. Just this year, we started utilizing all the reports from Sugar and doing it live. So instead of having a PowerPoint presentation, we throw Sugar up on the wall in the conference room, and we go through all the market leads and show them what we've got working, and we're able to speak to each opportunity and go through and show them, down to even what SKUs we're talking about. So we're constantly making the system more robust and adding to it, and eventually the idea is that it handles everything from our marketing to our pipeline to our customer database, all the way to our taking that forecast and sending it by SKU to production. So we've got a map of what we want to do, and now we're just building it a little bit more as we go each quarter. So and just doing that, the team's engagement continues to increase to where it's a tool that people, instead of sitting down once a week and trying to cram everything in, right? They're utilizing it on a daily basis now, which was the goal from the get-go.
That's great. That's great. So you all do the evaluation, you go through the implementation, you get people using the system. So let's talk about the results. Why don't you walk us through some of these results? You still got you, Trevor?
Yep. Sorry. Here we go.
No.
So we had about 100 working, what you would call, accounts that were really more of we were engaged with, or they were targets. We weren't really currently selling cases to them. We actually had a lot of accounts beyond that. But that was kind of our go after list, right? And we increased that to now there's over 1,200 accounts in the system that we are either targeting or we are in talks with to start moving cases and new business with, right? We had a kind of a pretty sorry, like I said, with the Excel spreadsheets, but it was kind of almost pathetic, really. We had 10 or 12 opportunities that would get worked a year, right, per person. And it wasn't because those people weren't good salespeople. It was because it's really hard to go after the $50,000 customer a year and that $5 million customer a year and keep everything organized. So what was happening was a lot of those smaller and medium-sized customers weren't making those spreadsheets. Everybody was swinging for the home run, right? So what Sugar allowed us to do was not only increase all the accounts that we were keeping track of, but also, maximize the amount of opportunities that we go through. So we have in our goals with our corporate, each person has to keep 10 open opportunities at all times. So if they close win or close lose one, they better have a target to put back in there. And Now, instead of 10 or 12 a year, each person burns through probably closer to 75 or 80 opportunities a year. And since we started, we've opened and closed 400 new opportunities with utilizing Sugar. That doesn't mean we won all of them by any means, but we at least went out and engaged the customer and took the swings, and that was not happening anywhere near that rate before.
That's awesome. It sounds like a productivity game that's just off the charts, which is really, really cool. Which leads me to, what's next? What are you guys going to do next?
So, I kind of touched on it earlier. Our goal is to eventually use this from front to back, from everything to marketing, all the way to the cases being produced at the factory. And the system has that capability, and we just continue to build on it.
That's awesome. That's great. I know we're going on. So when you look at these results, Garrett, I mean, is this what people see in the kind of scope? Is this common for what you guys do for your customers using Sugar?
This is common. This is common. We are here for the long haul with our customers. We're here to support them and watch them grow. And if they're not growing with the technology, we want to understand why and help them improve that. That's given me the opportunity to have customers that, I have customers that go back to 2005 that I've been working with for well over 12 years, 14 years now. So we're here to support them on this little journey that they go on with the technology. And again, because I think the foundation of our initial conversation is about the platform itself and its extendability. I always go into these types of conversations with a lot of confidence that Sugar is going to be able to fit the needs that come across our desk. It will not make the tea, though.
That's right.
We can't get it to do that. But
right. Yeah, maybe with Internet of Things, and something's going to happen. Sometime, we'll figure it out. That's awesome. This has been great. I do have some questions, so I wanted to get to those while we still have time. One of the ones came in is, how do you know which opportunities or accounts to focus on? It says, what metrics or what KPIs? Thanks. So is there any way that you guys are either today or maybe in the future looking at how you prioritize or what you want to focus on? I know you talked a bit about the kind of meeting that you have. Is that how you're doing it today? I mean, what's the prioritization in the list view, so to speak, that you guys are working on, Trevor?
Sure. So we deal with a lot of different types of customers. So we organize customers by the type of customer, whether they're a distributor, whether they're a retail restaurant on the street, right? And then there's more than that, but I won't bore you with that side of the business. Then we drop them into buckets of who is a target. That means we're not talking to them yet, but we want to. Who is engaged? That means that we're talking to them, and if I go in that account, I better see an opportunity listed in there, right? At least the start of one. You might not have all the information, but there should be an opportunity tied to an engaged customer. And then active. That means we're sending them product and they're sending us money, right? And then the secondary the way that we quantify them by, a lot of people call it tier 1, tier 2, tier 3. With the way that our business works, the more points of location somebody has, the more tea that they're going to sell. So we just quantify them by the size of their organization, right? So we've got national accounts, regional accounts, small chain, and then what we call mom and pops.
Very cool. And that's kind of, was that part of that? I noticed on the chart that we saw earlier in the presentation, there was a scoring mechanism of 1, 2, 3. Is that what you're talking about there, kind of?
Yeah, that's what we started out with, just to appease management. There was a lot of conversations about what terms we should use. I just ended up using what I wanted to, and then they adopted it.
Gotcha. Great. Another question we have is, again, we're talking kind of a soup to nuts thing. So, were there any budget blindsides throughout this process that kind of took you by surprise?
Absolutely not. And that's one of the reasons I didn't have a budget coming into this. I was given rein to go after whoever I wanted to go after. They said if it's, if it ends up being Salesforce, which I knew beforehand and found out for sure during the interview process that that was a much more expensive system. And so anytime you request help or changes and that kind of thing, it can add up. One of the things that Sugar provides is that user rate per year. We send our money for the licenses for the number of users we have, and then the not only the online support that you get access to, but also if I got a question outside the scope of that, I can't figure it out, I call Garrett. I've never received a bill for anything. So I don't know if he's got them stacked up on his desk or something, but it's been a couple years now, and so far nothing.
Value add. That's value
there
add.
You go. That's awesome. Another one's the most important benefit in your eye and what you measure. What's the thing that I guess makes you either the happiest or what you care the most about in terms of the benefit you're getting out of the system?
We've sold a lot more product in the past 2 years. We've gotten a lot of new sales. You're constantly. It's always easier to keep a customer. Everybody knows that. But no matter what you do, especially in our business, you're always going to bleed, right? We're able to better track where we're bleeding. We're able to better flag at-risk business that we know is coming up for a price proposal or something like that. And then most importantly, we've been able to add new business at a much higher rate than we were doing before. So I mean, that ultimately that's the end goal, right? All the rest of it is just tools to get to there.
Gotcha. Do you focus kind of a follow-up? The same person who asked the first question I asked, talking about those buckets, is there a prioritization of the 1, 2, 3? I mean, which ones do you guys focus on, and which ones are you able to manage through? I mean, I know you manage them all through Sugar, but how do you focus within those buckets?
Right. So it's a good question, and it's a little bit complicated. Basically, each salesperson has an overall number, right? If they can go hit that number by selling a bunch of $10,000 account, more power to them. And to be honest with you, for us, that's a more diverse and safe business. We need smaller account, a group of smaller accounts, right? You don't want all your eggs in one basket. Mm-hmm. The golden geese, so to speak, for us in our industry are super obvious. So the classification of the size, national chain, regional chain, small chain, that's kind of how we identify. They're not necessarily who's most important, but what's the biggest opportunity out there right now. And what I can tell you is you don't want anybody just to have those, the big guys, the national guys. That's what we did before, and it didn't work. Where we've picked up business was identifying those medium and smaller customers, pursuing them and gaining their business. One of them's not going to move the needle, but when you start getting 20 or 30 of them, that's as big as one of those huge customers, right? And it's more diverse, so it's less risk.
Yeah, I mean, that's always great. I mean, if you can keep your churn percentages down no matter what, but you have more customer base to start with, your net churn and lost revenue is obviously always going to be smaller, right? So smart thinking, and obviously being able to manage that increased volume with something like a CRM system makes that even easier and drives the productivity, so people don't feel like they're wasting time trying to meet their quota with a bunch of little ones versus one big one, right? So you're kind of giving them the incentive to help the company and help themselves, right?
That's right.
That's awesome. That's great. Okay, I think we have one more question that is an actual. Okay, I feel like this person is probably one of the 45% that was using Sugar. He's saying you're moving into lead management. Are you looking to use Sugar's new lead capabilities for that? I guess this person has heard about our Sales Fusion acquisition. Is that something that you're looking at? Is there something else? As Braincell said, they're unbiased. So what are you looking at as you go into lead? Is there a specific provider you're looking at, or what?
That's we haven't we've looked at it, right? But that's not something that we've gotten to the step of, okay, we're getting ready to implement this. But what I would say is every time when we needed to implement Outlook integration, right? I just call Garrett and say, hey man, here's what I need it to do. Point me in the right direction.
Yeah.
So I would say leaning on Braincell for that is a good place to start. And when we get to that point that we're seriously looking at implementing it, that's exactly who I'll contact.
That's great. Well, Garrett, you know as well as anyone, we've got some really cool new marketing stuff. So if and when that comes up, no pressure. But that's the beauty of Sugar, to kind of answer the question is, you can leverage our lead management and marketing automation or not, right? We're an open integration platform. So if the Outlook tools or the email stuff that people wanted to use was something else, we can make that work. We have partners that do that, and Braincell works with them as well, not just ourselves. So that's for those of you who aren't using Sugar, and many of you do, you might not realize that. I mean, we are absolutely agnostic when it comes to a best of breed approach. If you want the one vendor to choke, so to speak, we can do that for you. But obviously, best of breed support that as well. Okay, we don't have any more questions, so we are going to close this out in a bit. But what I did want to do is give Garrett a moment, a value assessment for your CRM. So Garrett, why don't you talk about what you guys are offering here as a value add here, and before we close out.
Sure, absolutely. So here at Braincell, we're always happy to take those additional steps to evaluate your current CRM product, to get a better understanding of those processes that you're trying to achieve through the tool on a day-to-day basis. So if you'd like, feel free to reach out to us. Perhaps you don't have a CRM right now and you're in the middle of an initiative. We have a number of account executives here who are willing to talk you through this CRM selection or vendor selection process, however you've called it. And of course, if you're struggling with your CRM, don't hesitate to reach out to us either. We're here to assess that and to help you get the adoption that you're looking for and the results that you're looking for. So give us a call at any time, and we're happy to set up some time to talk with you in more detail about your needs.
Great. Well, Garrett, Trevor, awesome conversation. Trevor, thanks for telling your story. Like you said, it's just one of thousands and thousands of companies that we've helped, really in a similar way, go from spreadsheets, emails, to a full, really functional system that really changes the face of the organization for good, right? Drives productivity, drives sales, drives leads, all that kind of stuff, increases conversion percentages. All great stuff. That's what we do every day. Braincell helps us do that for our customers. We're transforming customer relationships all the time for our customers with their customers. So everyone who joined, thank you. We'll make a replay of this available in the next day or two. Thank you for all your great questions. And this is a series. So as always, look for next month as the Blueprint webinar series continues. I'm Martin Schneider. Thanks a lot for joining. See you next time.